And I thought I would recap the day because not everyone was here. And I'll just draw a few highlights. First, we saw The Social Dilemma, still posted on Netflix. Actually used my wife's account, don't tell them. And it displayed beautifully, and once I was educated that no, we cannot make this like a movie theater, it's unsafe. You know, I calmed down and then got all upset because horrible things happen in social media. And we know this. How many of us are oppressed by our email? Too many, right? And we're not even teenagers, right? So can you imagine the pressure? And how many of you were absolutely flabbergasted when Randima Fernando showed us that woman who got all gussied up by that remarkable technology that allows people to alter their appearance, okay? Just phenomenal. Then after the movie, we had really a gripping hour and a half with Father James Fredericks. And we really need to wish him well as he conducts the quinceanera, okay? And on the ground, educators and people of God are really working with damage. And thank goodness, we know, if you didn't read about, there's a beautiful article about the Golden Gate Bridge. They finally installed the netting. And suicidal ideations are very fleeting. And interventions are demonstrated to stop the overwhelming number of people that would prefer to kill themselves because it passes quickly. So social media has not been our friend, particularly with young people. We heard from Fritjof Capra and from Dr. Hagelin and Dr. Banerji about systems thinking.
Oh, yeah, you can ask Chris.
We are all interconnected. And just being in this room, seeing familiar faces, seeing faces that are becoming familiar, we know this, we live this. And we know that through leaning back into not just the Golden Gate net, but into the networks of people with whom we have relationships, we really have the possibility of being okay. Randima Fernando's. Everyone's asking me, where's he from? And the answer is Sri Lanka. And his explanation of the problem was accompanied with, you know, we're going to be okay. It was a little bit folksy and very, very techy, but it was also very motivational that whatever it is that we can do, we must do. And again, lifting up the word made famous by Paulo Freire, conscientization is the start. And moments like this, we're in the company of others who are learning, who are having their consciousness raised and learning what needs to be done. Now, he didn't quite go where I wanted him to, but that's the humanist in me. But I wanted to know, what was your practice? And he wasn't going to say, okay? But I started with Buddhist meditation when I was 13 years old, with breath counting, and with Christian meditation in the style of the Quakers when I was 15 years old. And you can tell I'm old now, but lots of yoga, lots of meditation, and we're very blessed to have in the room today 3 major institutions represented. The Transcendental Meditation folks in Iowa, the legacy of Sri Aurobindo, who said, build, to Dr. Chowdhury in the 1950s, and Dr. Chowdhury established what is now the California Institute for Integral Studies, How many of you have heard of Esalen? Okay, all in the family here. And of course, LMU. But just as we need the work of people in, say, the Roman Catholic Church, the good work of Father Fredericks, the good work of the Jesuits, which is always behind the scenes here, so also we need those safe havens that are to be found in places like Spirit Rock, in places like the International Meditation Society. And for the introduction of these esteemed, august personages, I'm handing it over to Eric Suzuki, or rather Haruki Swanson. Okay, it was the Swanson that was tricking me up there. And I remember when Eric interviewed, I said, I know your dad. So again, familial relations. His father, a pioneer in Christian Buddhist dialogue. He's now an assistant professor of Buddhism in our Department of Theological Studies, where he's taught courses on Buddhism, comparative mysticism, religions of Japan, spirituality in Japanese popular culture, anime, of course. And he received his BA in Religious Studies at Indiana University in Bloomington, an MA in Esoteric Buddhist Studies from Koyasan University in Japan, and a PhD in East Asian Religion and Philosophy from Harvard University. He is an historian of religion, interested in the study of esoteric Buddhist tradition in medieval Japan through the examination of liturgical texts, visual art, ritual practices, and performance. His current book project is a study of the scholar, monk, and poet Jian, 1155 to 1225, and Jian's establishment of ritual programs for, and this is what we need, for the pacification of vengeful spirits. So, Dr. Swanson, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chappell, for such a warm introduction. And I'm just really honored to be here and standing amongst these really wonderful and distinguished thinkers. I'm going to keep my my comments short because I think we're all here to and very excited to listen to our distinguished guests today. But I want to first thank Dr. Chappell for organizing such a stimulating program for us today and providing us with the opportunity to enter into a very reflective space through these presentations and discussions throughout the day. Dr. Chappell has given us a rare opportunity, I think, to take a moment to stop, to take notice of a rapidly changing world, to ruminate on how we must best navigate a new reality in which technology is seemingly taking away our agency to make sense of the world around us. I want to especially thank Dr. Chappell for inviting Dr. Jack Kornfield and Dr. Trudy Goodman to be here with us today in our last session titled Meditation and Transformation of Self, fitting coda to our day of interrogating the continued potentials of the human mind in a world reshaped by artificial intelligence, or in the plural, as Dr. Fredericks reminded us this morning. Dr. Kornfield and Dr. Goodman have a long list of credentials and achievements, but perhaps they may best be described as wonderful teachers, or what in the Buddhist tradition we would call a good friend. Through their extensive work and writings, they have tapped into the deep well of the Buddhist wisdom and compassion and skillfully re-articulated its continued potential for realizing peace in the present moment, touching the lives of countless people, guiding them to open the door to a more mindful engagement with the world. So thank you for all the work that both of you have done. Dr. Jack Kornfield holds a doctorate in clinical psychology, has trained as a Buddhist monk in the monasteries of Thailand, India, and Burma, and is a founding teacher of the Insight Meditation Society and Spirit Rock Center. He is one of the key teachers who introduced mindfulness practice to the West. He has taught meditation internationally since 1974. His books include A Path with Heart, which I actually assigned a portion of it to my class this semester. We have a couple students from that class. A lamp in the darkness, after the ecstasy, the laundry, the wise heart, and no time like the present, finding freedom, love, and joy right where you are. So thank you for being here. Dr. Trudy Goodman is the founding founding teacher, excuse me, of InsightLA, which we also learned during lunch has its roots here in this very building. So that's very exciting. The first center to combine training in insight, vipassana meditation, and non-sectarian mindfulness and compassionate practices, including mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, and mindfulness self-compassion, MSC. The fourth teacher ever of MBSR, she taught with its creator, Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center and directed the internship program there. She has studied and practiced Buddhist meditation for 45 years with Asian and Western teachers. She's the guiding teacher and co-founder of the Institute for Meditation and Psychotherapy in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the first center in the world dedicated to interrogating these two disciplines, or integrating these two disciplines. She had a private psychotherapy practice there for 25 years while also working as a psychological consultant to independent schools. She co-founded 2 family mindfulness programs, Family Path and Growing Spirit with Susan Kaiser Greenland in Los Angeles, and has worked with kids and families throughout her career. She teaches retreats and workshops worldwide, often teaching as a duo, as we see today, with her husband, Dr. Jack Kornfield. She is a contributing author to Clinical Handbook of Mindfulness, Compassion and Wisdom in Psychotherapy.
A little bit, but
and Mindfulness in Psychotherapy. And finally, I want to note that she's also the voice of Trudy the Love Barbarian on Netflix specials, The Midnight Gospel, which is very cool. So thank you. I have to throw that in there. Really wonderful show. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jack Kornfield and Dr. Trudy Goodman.
Wow, thank you for that beautiful introduction, and especially for remembering Trudy the Love Barbarian, which was actually one of the high points of my career, getting to do the voiceover. And I want to give a shout out to Duncan Trussell and the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, because his podcasts formed the basis for the Dharma that was in that series.
thank you, Trudy, too. Glad we're up here together. We've been teaching together for quite a long time, right? Then we got married, whatever. It worked. We actually met, I might have said it, upstairs 50 years ago. So we've been friends for a very long time and colleagues. And we're having a good time working together.
Thank you. It's like gross. Thank you.
What?
You better wash your hands.
The water?
No, there was toilet paper stuck on my boot.
Oh, hey.
You know where I was before?
We all have those duties to do.
Wow, Dr. Chappell is fearless. He also, I've watched him. Not only did he organize this entire event and played a huge part in the development of this whole university, but he puts out the water. He takes the toilet paper off your boot. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, real education, right? So I'm very pleased to be here and part of this day. I want to honor the Doshis who've done amazing things in supporting this day, these awards. When you think of Vandana Shiva and Thich Nhat Hanh and Deepak Chopra and on, and Rupert Sheldrake and lots of people who are friends of mine that I look up to, and kind of what beautiful things they've supported here in the whole department and the university. So thank you for that. And also for today, because there were really brilliant presentations, starting with Jim, and Fritjof and others. And Randy, if you don't know the Center for Humane Technology with Tristan Harris and Randima Fernando, they're brilliant. And they really have a lot to teach us. And they're alarmist a little bit too, which is probably a good thing. It's actually needed. If we're going to make a change, we have to kind of look it in the eye. So I'd like to talk a little bit and then do some practice together, which is a way of changing the conversation, since we talked about mindfulness and we talked about different kinds of inner training that were mentioned here, or the changing of consciousness and the need to shift. How do we do it? Arnold Toynbee said that the coming of the Dharma to the West may well become or show us be the most important event of the 20th century. And I believe that was said because it was really his shorthand of saying the kind of things that Fritjof spoke to, that we have to shift consciousness from the materialistic, exploitive way to that consciousness of interdependence and the possibility of inner well-being and freedom. And each, generation and century, the teachings from India, I'm very much involved with the Buddhist teachings, but there's Hindu teachings too. They've gone to Tibet or Japan or Korea or other parts of the world, China, and found new languages and new forms, and now they're doing it in the West, and we're somehow in that process together. They're timeless teachings. They're not just the teachings of a particular culture, but they teach us about consciousness itself and who we are. And that question of who are you and what is our human identity is absolutely critical. A poem by Eduardo Galeano, he writes, "The church says the body is a sin." Sorry, Father. Science says the body is a machine. The marketplace says the body's good for business. The body says, I am a fiesta. And the poets have something to teach us that we can't get anywhere else. I think it was, I'm not sure, it might have been William Carlos Williams, who said, you can't get the news from poetry, but men and women die every day for lack of what is found there. That we don't have that soul, that spirit that poetry offers to us. So these are timeless teachings, and they're so important because we live in a culture that in many ways is defined by the absence of the sacred. It's become such a materialistic culture. And of course, we could see all the alarmist things of the misuse of AI, its disruptive capacities and so forth. But underneath it, there's a really important question that's been raised that's here in the fabric of the day. And that is, well, let me make it as a statement. No amount of technological progress, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, space technology, CRISPR genetic technology, all the extraordinary technology we have will stop us from continuing warfare, continuing racism, continuing tribalism, continuing climate destruction. It doesn't come from there because these problems arise from the human heart and from human consciousness. And so they can't be solved in an outer way. They actually have to be solved within our own hearts and our own consciousness. And that's the only way that the real transformation has to happen. And I'm not saying in this some light way, okay, everybody should then close your eyes and meditate, spare your friends and family. What I'm saying is that mindfulness, which means that extraordinary capacity to step out of the way we're lost and conditioned and look anew and step back and see, that mindfulness is both a personal inner training, but half of the teachings of mindfulness, which haven't been brought to the West very much because everybody wanted to do the kind of LSD, close your eyes and have the big enlightenment experience thing, is relational mindfulness. That's actually what it's about as much as anything. And so those two, even Randy didn't really say that. And he's a dear friend, but he's done the kind of blinkered mindfulness. And he sort of forgets mindfulness is a relational practice. So here we are, and we realize that technology is not going to save us. It might destroy us, but it ain't going to save us, because the transformation, we have to match the outer transformations with an inner transformation. So then the question is, I mean, people are asking, well, will AI have its own kind of consciousness, right? And I got introduced to and started to work with Sam Altman. I've got some public dialogues with him, the CEO and founder of OpenAI and ChatGPT and so forth. And I introduced Charlie Oppenheimer to him as well. Charlie Oppenheimer is Robert Oppenheimer's grandson, who's a physicist and who said, I need to talk to Sam because this is the Oppenheimer moment for AI. Is it going to explode the world, or what do we do? I connect them. So Sam said to me early on, he said, how do we know when it becomes conscious? I could have given a philosophical answer about consciousness, but I said, hey, Sam, you're a burner, right? You know, he goes out to Burning Man, and he's one of this generation, right? I said, I'll tell you what, let's go and put a couple of mats down between the servers, take some psilocybin, and talk to it and see if it answers us, right? So I'm just giving you an orthogonal way of looking at these questions, because they can be philosophical, but they have another dimension that's demanding and really deep. So how do we do this? You know, the truth is that we can step out of our identification with our roles in our family and our culture and our gender and all those kind of things that you think you are until you die. When you're dying, you know those roles don't matter very much. Maybe a little your family roles, but mostly you get this. This is, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, we play a game of hide and seek. This is a costume for spirit. Spirit's born into the body and it will leave it. You are not your body. You are not chapatis or Big Macs or whatever it is that you eat. You're not your emotions. I hope not, because they keep changing. You're definitely not your thoughts. I mean, you don't have much control over them to start with, and sometimes they don't have your best interest in mind. But you can be aware of these because what you are is consciousness itself that experiences this human life. Now, the beautiful thing about the deep spiritual trainings is that you can step out of the ordinary identities that Buddhists sometimes talk about as the separate or the small sense of self or the body of fear. And the Buddhist texts begin, "O nobly born, remember who you really are. Remember what your true nature was born." But it's not limited to Buddhist or Hindu. Yes, Meister Eckhart said the eye that sees God is the eye that God is seeing me, or something like that. You can't separate. When I look to God, I am God looking at God, you know, or the Kashmiri Shaivism and all the beautiful non-dual teachings in India, or the plant medicine of the indigenous world. All of those invite us to a shift of identity, to actually have the experience of a shift of identity, that we're not this, Alan Watts called skin-encapsulated ego. We're not this separate being. We are sort of separate, you know, and you have to drive on the right-hand side of the road and stop at the red light, or whatever, you get a different kind of change. But it's a very limited experience. And in Buddhist psychology, there is a teaching that when you remember your true nature, remember your nature and consciousness, whatever you want to call it, it begins to shift how you operate and what you do in the world. So, blah, 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 a lot of words. I'd like us to do a practice together. It's a very demanding practice, so this is going to be tough. But you came to learn something. In silence, I would like you to move, if you're not sitting next to somebody, because this is a paired practice. It's a partner practice. No words, but you can do it, you know. So look and just acknowledge who's going to be your person. And if you don't have a person, it has to be 2, it can't be 3. Then raise your hand, shh, 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 quiet. Children, this is kindergarten, keep yourself quiet, but put your hand up if you're looking for a partner. Raise your hand and stand up. You can stand up and turn around in a circle and look for another hand that goes up. Stand up, come on, you can do it. I know you can follow instructions, graduate student. Okay, you found, who else doesn't have a person to be with? Or who else wants to be brave? Okay? Yeah, it has to be in pairs, except for the person who's sitting there says, I don't want to do this, but that's okay. You know, we all have our own agency and we have to respect it. All right, you ready? Okay, this is about a 10, 12-minute meditation. What?
It's guided.
Oh, yeah, of
They're
course.
not on their own.
No, of course not. It's guided. Trudy wanted me to make sure you knew that. So you're not just going to be on your own. And it says in Buddhist psychology that the nature of the heart and mind, it's described in many different ways, but one of them is that the awakened heart or mind has certain beautiful qualities when we're not caught in our sense of separateness. And they include love or loving kindness. They include compassion when we encounter suffering. They include joy and the kind of irrepressible joy of life. And they include equanimity, the kind of things that Randi talked about and in a way Fritjof did as well. So here's the practice now. I'd like you to shift around in a little bit, in a way that you can, so that you can look at the person who's next to you, and that this will be an encounter in which you practice with that person and sit reasonably, sit so that you can see each other. You can do it. Shh, shh, shh. Okay. So here you are, 10 minutes. I think you can tolerate this. It's tough on you introverts, but it'll be all right. I promise in the end, it's worth it. Okay, take a couple of long breaths just to settle yourself. And then behold the being who's next to you. Take a look at them silently, and as you do, relax. And turn your gaze to their eyes. Take another deep breath or two and center yourself. Let go of any tension. And if you feel discomfort or an urge to laugh or look away, just note this embarrassment gently with patience, kindness, and return your attention when you can to the living presence of this being, this unique being different from anyone who the universe has ever produced before. And as you gaze into the eyes of this being, first, let yourself behold the beautiful spirit behind these eyes. What's there, that amazing spirit of life and liveliness behind these eyes? And even if you feel a little embarrassed or a little uncomfortable, you can do this. Trust yourself. And as you look, open yourself to the gifts and strengths behind these eyes, the potential in this being. Behind these eyes are unmeasured reserves of courage and intelligence, of patience and endurance, of wit and wisdom. There are gifts there that this person themselves may not be aware of. Let yourself see the innate beauty behind these eyes of the spirit And notice that there comes a connection or a natural well-wishing when you look deeply into the eyes and spirit of another being, a kind of well-wishing, that they remember their beautiful spirit, their courage and intelligence and gifts. And as you gaze in this way, what you begin to experience is the great heart of loving kindness. It comes through the power of attention and deep connection and care. It arises naturally when we see deeply. Rest in it for a moment. And now let yourself continue to gaze and let the loving kindness drop away to see more deeply another dimension behind these eyes. As you behold this person, open your awareness to the measure of sorrows they have also known. Here, as in all human lives, there are fears and hurts and losses and tenderness and loneliness. There are hurts this person may never have told another living being. And as you gaze kindly and open to their measure of suffering, you know you cannot remove it, but you can be with it. And as you experience your capacity to be in the presence of the pain of another, know that what arises naturally is the great heart of loving kindness turning into compassion. Imagine if they were a child and in trouble and reached out, how you would extend yourself when they were hurting. This is the compassion that can heal the world. Rest in it. And feeling this openness and tenderness and wisdom that grows in loving kindness and now compassion. When loving kindness meets suffering, it turns into deep compassion and care. Continue to gaze and take a deep breath, because you get to look even more deeply in these next two dimensions. And as you take in the presence of this person next to you, let yourself picture or imagine their best moments as a young child. Even with tough childhood, children still have moments of laughing, tickling, playing, running, an amazing spirit of joy. You can see this inside. It is called the child of the spirit that is born in each person. An inviolable spirit, it can be covered, but it's still there. And feel your resonance with them, what it would be like to work together, to collaborate with a spirit of joy. And as you see the joyful spirit underneath it all, their happiest moments as a young child, expresses that even now. Know that you are opening to what in Sanskrit is called mudita, the shared joy of another being. Rest in it. Open to it. So much possibility in this being in front of you, such a spirit, and you can see it. Creative, joyful, alive. Now, continuing to gaze one more time, take a deep breath and look even more deeply behind these eyes. And lastly, let your awareness drop deep like a stone, sinking below the level of what words can touch, to the vast web of relationship and life that we're all woven together in. And here you are at the brink of time, gazing at a being across from you. And let yourself see the one whose eyes you gaze into, as if seeing the face of one who at another time and another place was old, and young, was your mother or father, was your son or daughter, was your friend, was your enemy, was your teacher, was your student. And now you gaze on the brink of eternity and open yourself to this spirit. Who are we really? What is this timeless consciousness? Let yourself see and sense the timeless knowing of awareness itself, taking all these forms. And yet who you are is this great field of loving awareness itself. Let this be a homecoming, a remembering, an opening to vastness, mystery. Who are you really? Consciousness beholding consciousness. And then kindly and gently let your eyes close for a moment. Sense your inner experience. And when you're ready, let your eyes open gently. And now you can acknowledge the person that was across from you in any way you wish. And you can actually take a few minutes to talk to them. Take 3 minutes to say anything you wish to share or say.
How much more are you going to talk?
I'll be done at 10 of you.
There's such an atmosphere of beauty and stillness.
Yeah. I'm going to talk very little. You're going to have 40 minutes.
Oh, I'm not worried about how much time I
Yeah.
have. It's more like the atmosphere.
Yeah, so
I don't
what-
want to bring it down.
You know, what I want to do is after they have their 3 minutes, then I'm going to have a few people report what it was like, which changes the dynamic a little. And then I'll read a little poem and then turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
And I might not need all my time.
Okay.
In which case,
You can end early. We can take questions and no.
because I have a lot to say, but I didn't get an outline. So I might not,
Okay. It's a little late for that.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Yeah, whatever.
so much of what I have to say is in response to being here.
Yeah, yeah.
Originally, I wasn't really thinking I had to think about AI.
Yeah.
Now I realize you have to actually address it.
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
We're really enjoying talking to each other.
I know.
Look at those two gazing at each other.
Yeah, no, I know. I'll give him another minute or two.
And even the people who couldn't do it, like those 2
They're-
boys in the middle, they're
right.
talking.
They're talking, exactly. That was
They
the,
just could not do
no,
it.
it was too much. It's too scary. Yeah,
If they'd had a girl next to them,
they might have, maybe,
they would have done it.
maybe.
But to look at each
The
other like that,
homophobia, oh my God. So take 1 more minute to finish up. I know you could talk a long time. Finish up as best you can. I know you have a lot to share. It's okay, Chris, it's fine. Okay, wind it down for now. Afterward, you can go out to dinner or go on a date or whatever you want to do. You can carry on. So, yeah, bells are fine. We might use them. Thank you, that's kind. Sure. So let me ask you something, because it got very animated in here as you were talking. Oh, thank you, Trudy. It's one thing for me to talk about meditation or other people to talk about it or outline Buddhist or Vedanta or other kinds of practices. It's another to actually do the practices and to see that it doesn't take that long to quiet the mind and open the heart when we pay deep attention in some way, and that's part of who we are. It's actually part of our birthright, if you will, our nature. So next I want to do, just for a few minutes, to ask anybody in the room who wants to report anything interesting or unusual that happened for you. And I know for some people that was hard or embarrassing a little bit and so forth, but also other interesting things happen. So anyone who has anything they'd like to share about how that was, please raise your hand. Oh, she has a mic. Okay, there's a mic over there. And then people will say, wow, I've never looked at anybody like that. I've been married 26 years and we never looked at each other like that, right? So it's a little shocking, especially in our culture. In India, there's this amazing phrase talking about going to see a guru where they say what can change you is called the glance of mercy. When somebody looks at you so deeply and loves you as you are, as the guru, a good guru might, it kind of rewires you. Oh, I've been seen in all my, what's the Sanskrit word for mishigash? All that stuff is seen, and that's not who I am, and it's seen. Anyway, any reports? Please. Raise your hand. All you shy people. There's one over here. Yes. Great.
Jesse.
Well, thank you. I feel like you kind of stole the show a little bit in a good way. You know, I feel like that, for me, that really did demonstrate well the ghost in the shell of each of us, you know, and maybe how that differentiates between artificial intelligence at the moment. So yeah, it was just very good to be back in the dyad, back in relation, and see the quick depths of that practice.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, please? In the front. Oh, okay, on that side, there's a couple of hands up.
Thank you. I guess I'll bring in the Roman Catholic view here in that I felt an extraordinary amount of gratitude to my God for having this time to be with someone that I love so very, very much and I haven't seen in so many years. And it was just miraculous. It really
Yes.
was extraordinary.
Yes.
So I'm just filled with gratitude.
Thank you. You know, there's a monument in Louisville, Kentucky, the only government monument I know to the mystical experience. It's that place where Thomas Merton left the monastery trying to be holy, he said, and then he was just walking down the street on 4th Street and Walnut, and he said, I could suddenly see the secret beauty behind the eyes of everyone going by. I'd looked for it in the monastery, but here it was. The only problem was I felt like I wanted to get down in front of everybody, kneel down and worship each person that went by, which is really what you're saying so beautifully. Thank you. I'm glad the Catholics know it. Okay, one more over here, please.
I come from the Kundalini yoga tradition and was raised with mindfulness and meditation at the end of a stick from the age 7 to 20. And so although that the practice was to look into the kind, loving, beautiful eyes of my wife of many years, I had to claw through my own reactive barriers of learning it in a difficult manner, which I imagine is part of the benefit and beauty of the practice, is to reflect on yourself as you are trying to reflect on the other consciousness.
Yeah, thank you for that, because when you pay attention in this way, just what you're saying, everything else comes up. What did you want to say, Trudy?
You want to say anything?
Why are you tapping me?
I didn't mean to.
Oh, okay. I thought she had.
I just touched you by accident.
Oh, I see. I thought you had something you wanted me to be aware of.
I'm going to have my turn in a moment.
That what you were saying is part of what makes practice actually interesting. That it's both a gateway to the timeless, and it also shows the layers of our doubt or judgment and those things to which you can say with mindfulness, you can go, well, thank you for your opinion. I appreciate it. I'm okay. And then you carry on. It's not like you have to fix it or judge it or something. It's just part of being human. It's our common humanity. And then recognize it with loving awareness and say, now let me look deeper. So you articulated something very important. I'm going to end now. We could go on for a while. But again, it felt to me like after a day of lots of really brilliant talk about AI and consciousness, that it might be useful to also use a meditation to kind of drop in to what is this question of consciousness and who are we? From the Tao Te Ching, when you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, immersed in the wonder or the mystery of the Tao of the world. You can deal with whatever life brings you as it comes and goes. And even when death comes, you are ready. And so the deep understanding brings the very things that Randima was talking about of equanimity and balance and the vast perspective, okay, we're in this amazing dance. What can we bring to it when we feel this level of connection and heart? So thank you. Miss Trudy, now I get to tap you. Hi, dear.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Yes, and I also want to do some practice with you, and actually listening to everybody today and to this practice made me change a little bit what I want to say, which is beautiful. It's a response, living response to what we've been doing here together, and to engage in this kind of philosophical discussion about what AI means to us, what is consciousness, to be able to do this together, to have the privilege, and yes, thank you, Chris Chappell, thank you to the Doshi family, thank you for making this happen, but to have the privilege to spend this time dedicated to pondering these questions about how do we nurture goodness, how do we nurture our humanity in the face of what's here. To be able to do this together feels like one of the most important, maybe, antidotes to the fear of AI. And I really want to speak to you in response to the questions that Randy asked. He said, AI is this greatest accelerator, and he asked the question, what is being accelerated, actually, with this acceleration? What is being accelerated? And then he asked, what will it take for things to go well? And then he asked, I think the most important question for each one of us, what can we do? What can each one of us do? And to be able to have these conversations with lots of young people here, with students here, that feels also like great honor. I'm actually honored to be the only woman who gets to speak. And I'm happy that it gets to be me. And not just because, yes, that's an honor, which it is, thank you, but also because, and I hadn't really meant to talk about this, but it feels important in this context. Just a little over a month ago, I had a near-death experience. I had been in retreat. I became very seriously ill, didn't really know how seriously ill I was very fortunate to get help and to get to a hospital in time to save my life. But what I want to share with you was the moment before I got, involved in the hospital and all those things. I was in Costa Rica, and I mention that because what happened to me actually started here. It was not Costa Rica's fault, but they saved my life. And what happened during the time that I was dying, you've heard of people having near-death experiences. This was actually my third one in this life, and each one has been different. But this one, I had that familiar feeling from a previous one of just very peacefully sinking into unconsciousness. And as I sank into unconsciousness, there was a part of my mind, of my consciousness, that thought, this is okay. I'm 78 years old, so I've had a relatively long life. There's been a lot of love in it. Jack will be sad, my daughter will be sad, my family will be sad, but I'm okay with this. Really total surrender to what was happening. But then there was another part of my mind, of my consciousness, and this was very interesting to me. There was this, in retrospect, I wasn't really analyzing it at the time. I was very sick. I was dying, and there was this other part of my consciousness that said, wait a minute. Not in those words, but it was like, wait a minute. You've been given, this isn't personal. You have the gift of awareness, this gift of consciousness that is part of all living things. It's not just about you being willing to die. There's something much bigger happening here. And when you have, and I'm speaking to each one of you, because you're not dying, but you can benefit from my experience and hopefully don't have to have a near-death experience until it's your time. But to each one of us, we aren't separate. Our consciousness is linked. And having this gift of awareness that we cultivate, whether it's through mindfulness practice, through loving kindness practices, through prayer, through other kinds of meditation, all the spiritual practices that actually are palpable. You can feel on this campus. When I walked onto this campus in LMU for the first time, I felt something different here. There was I don't even know, a kind of a warmth of spirit, and I felt it before I even met people. I felt it in the trees and the grass and the buildings. It's just an atmosphere that suffuses this campus. You may not feel it, but it's palpable to somebody from the outside who's sensitive, who comes in. And so this gift of that palpable, invisible, but very real spirit that we each have in our hearts, in our being, I felt, I don't know, I'm putting it into words, it wasn't in words, but I felt responsible to it. Like, okay, this gift is given to us, so don't let go of it so easily. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they talk about this precious human birth. That we could be born in all kinds of forms. Can I make this come up closer to my mouth? Because I never have to lean down. Yeah, thank you. That we're given this gift of consciousness. And I recently, actually earlier in the week, heard a talk online, thanks to Mind and Life, that organization, by Wolf Singer, who is a really famous or very respected neuroscientist based in Berlin. And he did a whole presentation, way too technical, way above my pay grade, but it was sort of comparing the capacities of AI and the human brain. And he really brought forward the vast complexity involving billions and trillions of resonances between neurons and between neural networks in our brains. I mean, I wish I could explain to you. I just want to communicate that I came away from that presentation with so much profound respect for this, what we have inside our skull, this amazing brain with all its resonances. And this brain that we cultivate through practices of learning, of meditation, of prayer, of all the practices that you do as students and as teachers and professors and just people here, that these practices of learning are what, AI is being taught. And is AI being taught consciously to nurture humanity, to be of benefit to humanity? We would never take a young child and expose them to everything on the internet, every single bit of information on the internet. And yet we take this sort of growing, I don't know what to call it, phenomenon of AI in teaching it, exposing it to everything without curating in any way, with ethics in mind, with the heart in mind, with the need for nurturing humanity. And of course, Randy explained all the pressures and all the reasons why, good people may get involved in doing things that lead to harm. It was all very brilliant. But I think having this chance to deeply, profoundly appreciate the miracle, the blessing, the amazingness of who we are is important when we're looking at this sort of, I don't know, this very fast train of phenomena that's approaching, that's here, actually. It's here. I mean, the focus of my work in this field has been more on, bringing the social network a few years ago, bringing Tristan Harris and Randy to InsightLA. I was more concerned with the extractive and distracting effects on our attention of AI in the form of social media at that time. And it's just, of course, more and more now. My grandkids are using Chat GPT to write their papers. And they tell me, no, it doesn't write the paper for us. It just makes an outline and then we write the paper. I wonder, but I'm their grandmother, so I believe them. And I know, but I believe them. It's important to believe them. But I also want to give a shout out to, especially some of the women scientists that have been inspiring me in the last few years. People like Suzanne Simard. Do you know who she is? She's the scientist from British Columbia, she wrote a book called The Mother Tree, and she's been studying the cooperative nature of forests and how forest communities, they're connected by these underground networks by which trees communicate their vitality and their vulnerabilities in community, very much the way our families operate and our healthy communities operate. And then there's another woman, her name is Monica Gagliano, and she's been studying plant communication and cognition. And I mentioned, and she's been studying how plants actually have memory, how plants have cognition, how plants actually have some subjectivity and consciousness, and that they have voices. I mean, they're not like our voices, but they have their own perspectives and voices. And she's learned to listen to the plants, and she's done impeccable science, but she learned a lot through indigenous elders and plant shamans and voyages with ayahuasca. And I mention this because, it's about how human inquiry goes beyond data and technology, and how we can have this relationship and interaction with nature and with each other as expressions of the natural world. We are, after all. And since we all care about nurturing our young and creating healthy communities in which they can grow up and thrive, we all care about our connectedness and our true place in the world. So these are the kinds of reflections that I've been having, and I really want to remind each one of us that, you know, like the trees, like the plants, each one of us, we are the living antennae of the culture, our brains, our beings, that as beings who are sensitive, who are awake, perceiving, feeling, who can have glimpses into our own unfolding nature through reflection and contemplation and philosophy and all these, you know, beautiful things, that we are this, and that I personally need to be reminded of this when I move into learning more about AI and about technology. And I guess deep down, I want to have some trust in the hearts of the people who are creating these things and who understand the machines in a way that I really don't. But I also know that, you know, robots and, you know, these, whether it's ChatGPT or other forms of AI, they don't yet, I don't know that they've been taught yet how to create a warm and nurturing environment. And I don't know about you, but I don't learn so well in a very cold and structured environment. I learn better in a warm and nurturing environment. It's a more healing kind of environment. I was talking with a former student and friend and physician, Albert Grab, who's here about my experience in Costa Rica and how the medical system was so nurturing there, and that the physicians were so warm and encouraging. And they didn't have just 15 minutes to spend with me and, you know, an incredible lineup of people with complex medical issues with whom they get to spend 15 minutes. They had time, and they weren't afraid to say, you're going to be fine. You're going to heal. You're going to get through this. They weren't afraid that I would sue them if I wasn't fine, or that my family would sue them if I died afterwards. You know, and I can't remember the word you used, Albert, but he was talking about sort of high tech and low trust cultures, which is the one we're kind of existing in right now, versus, I mean, here in this country, and versus the more low tech and high trust cultures that do exist in the world, and that exist in communities and small towns and all over the world, where people are doing very good things with and for each other that we never hear about because it's not clickbait. It doesn't sell newspapers, you know, but it's happening. And it's important, I think, to remember that it's happening. So I actually would like to do a practice together. You know, one of the things that Randy also said that struck me a lot was how that AI doesn't have any embodied model of reality. You know, it doesn't. We are the embodied model. This is the embodied model of reality. And I shouldn't only point to my head, because we know it's also the heart, and we know it's our gut too. It's our whole being that is the embodied model that has the keys to the embodied model of reality. So I'd like to do a practice that's it's meaningful to me right now, but I think it can be to you also, which is a practice. It's a kind of links to what Jack said earlier about, the body as a fiesta. It's really a practice of honoring and loving our bodies as our Dharma doorway into this embodied model of reality. I never thought of myself that way. I'm an embodied model of reality. So I'd like to guide you in a meditation, and to begin with a very familiar meditation. You've all probably at some point or another done some meditation with the breath, but this one has a slightly different focus. It's really on relaxing and being loved by the breath, letting yourself be loved by your own breath, and then offering that kind of spirit to our bodies. So please just find a posture as best you can, having sat in these conference chairs. Do you want to stand up for a minute first? Stand up first. Let's just shake it out for a minute. And I really want to thank you for staying. This has been a long, wonderful, rich day, and we are at the end of it. And I just really appreciate your stamina, your endurance, and your willingness to be attentive in this way for this long. So again, just I want to encourage you to just find a posture as best you can in these chairs that feels relaxed and comfortable for your body. And then to lower your gaze or close your eyes, whatever feels right to you. And to take a few intentional, deep, conscious breaths, breathing in and breathing out. One more time, breathing in the aliveness of this moment. And breathing out any tension you may have in your body. Now just tuning into the natural rhythm of your breathing. Not trying to fixate or anchor the breath. Feeling the fluid flow, the ebb and flow of this natural reflex called breathing. Just letting simple changes of in-breath and out-breath be soothing, emptying, refreshing, massaging, even caressing. Just sensing and feeling the deep safety comes from not having to make this happen. not having to do it or create it. Just relaxing into it brings some freedom. This breath that carries and holds you softly, tenderly, is loving. Something that is benevolent, profound benevolence of being safe and loved by your own breathing. It's always here. Our minds are always running out and searching for that sense of being held and loved. But here it is, gently, right here in your own life, with your own breath, in your own vitality and aliveness. You can let a little faith and trust seep in as you allow your body to breathe out, to take its time breathing in. It will. As long as we're alive, it will. Now just gently let the breath kind of sweep through your whole body from head to toe. Like a wave of breath, ebbing and flowing from head to toe and from toe back up to head. Gently massaging, caressing. And then bring attention to your head, to the whole region of your head, face and scalp and ears. And I'm going to say these words. You can gently repeat them to yourself. May my head relax and be at ease. Then your neck. May my neck relax and be at ease. And my shoulders that hold so much tension. My shoulders just lower, relax. Bringing attention to your arms, hands. My arms and hands relax, at ease. And to your chest, belly, the whole front of the body. Front of my body, my chest and belly, relax, at ease. and your back, upper back, middle, lower back, that carries often a lot of our tension. May my whole back be strong, relaxed, and at ease. And my bottom, my hips and buttocks and genitals, relax and be at ease. And may my legs, thighs and knees and calves relax, be at ease. And even my feet who carry me everywhere, may my feet relax and be at ease. And this is for our feet. It's from Anthony Machado, who says, "Traveler, your footprints are the only road, nothing else. Traveler, there is no road. You make your own path as you walk. As you walk, you make your own road." And may this road be made of our attentiveness, of the wisdom that arises from that, and the resonances with each other as we listen and take in all these talks and teachings that help us make a good road. One of my Zen teachers said, "If life is but a dream, let's make it a good dream." I feel like that's what we're here to do today, and that's what we have done. So I again want to really thank the Doshi family so much. Thank you, with so much love, and the love that you have just showered on LMU and Chris's work, Dr. Chappell's work. And I want to again give a shout out to Maureen Shannon Chappell. Chris is her husband. And because it's really thanks to Maureen that InsightLA thrived, because we didn't have a place to meet. And it was through Maureen and Chris that we were given a home, first in the Marymount Center. And I think I taught there for 5 years, and then Maureen taught there. So LMU has really been a birthplace and an ongoing support for my work here in Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trudy. A few more very brief things to say as we end, because I'm trying to think about, well, what's asked of us from a day like this, with the meditations and the teachings and the reflections and the brilliance, really. So I want to say, having had a little connection with some of the people running this AI world, and there's a whole spectrum of them, but there are some very good people who are thinking about how do we embed ethics, how do we make it humane. I know Sam Altman from the beginning was thinking about universal basic income. He was worried all the jobs would go away. How do we help people and so forth? So it's not that it's not in their minds. At least half of them, the good side, are thinking a lot about ethics. And I think it's why they call people like Trudy and I for that kind of conversation. But a couple of things. First of all, it's mostly a whole passel of young guys. Trudy didn't say that, but there's very few women involved. And the whole perspective is that of sort of the brilliant young techies, let's see what we can make and then we'll launch it and we'll see what happens, right? You know that consciousness. I grew up, I have 3 brothers. And we, if there was something we could do even troubling, let's do it. Let's see what happens. So that's in there too. I believe, in a way of summing up, that these people, some are well-meaning, some are just trying to make a lot of money, but quite a few are well-meaning, that they're asking for our help, that actually they can't do it themselves, and that they need us to be both informed, as we've learned today, to have a vision that's different, that's not the materialistic vision, but it has a vision of the sacred that's been absent, a vision of interconnection, all the things that people said, and then to act on it. To the people you talk with, to the politics you support, the ways that you work, they actually need us. And so I see this both as education, but I also see it as a kind of empowerment, and I hate to say it, as a kind of responsibility as well. Because when you know and you learn, then something in the heart says, boy, this is tough. We have to turn to this. We have to be willing to work with it. And it's us that will make the difference. It's not just those people. So there's a kind of empowerment that's completely placed into your good hands and your good hearts from today to learn, to care, and then in your own way to be responsive to it. And so thank you for all of that, as Trudy said, your patience and your attention. And isn't the stillness nice?
Are you feeling moved, Josh, or are you in silence? Okay. Okay. Okay, come on up. This is Josh Mason from our philosophy department.
Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Mason from the philosophy department. And for myself personally, what a joy and a privilege this is. That's nice to put in my life story. And then from behind the costume, just good job, guys. Like, this is the way to bring a happy dream to the world. And that goes for the contributors today and for the people who make it happen. If people put their life force and their work and their consciousness towards doing this for you, right? They're not doing it for themselves. They got other fun things, but they bring for the community to make a transformation. There's so much that's stimulating, isn't it? I would say this, is that for the students, right, the currency of a university is intelligence, right? You want to be smart, you want to get good grades, and this is how we envision what we want to leave behind as our products. I do philosophy, I think of Socrates saying that, no, you want to lose the body so that the mind can be pure intellect, or that Descartes talks about the mind. And this is what we sort of want to instantiate for the future, is the best. Humans are the rational animal, and that reason is what we have to carry forward. But what LMU does is emphasize the whole person. That the reminders that what we value and what we envision, we create, and it comes to pass. And so when we take on the values, the loving kindness, the compassion, and the care, how do we see that in our products that come from the whole of what we as people bring? And not just reify cleverness, cogitation, intelligence, but bring for others all that we have to contribute. And that's that part of it. Sail on, and my appreciations.
Okay, I want to invite you all to a reception, and I want to invite you all to step out. It's a glorious day, I think, and to just look and see what's happening in the sky. And if you go up a little bit higher, you might be able to catch the ocean out there. But I just want to thank everybody who has supported Gabby and Ayana and Maddie and all of the wonderful speakers, and Katie and my wife and Maureen, and the reception is just out the door. So thank you again, and let's give them a round of applause.